Hi, I'm Jim Rambo. I'm a former prosecutor for the state of Delaware. At the same time I was a prosecutor, however, I was playing music at night and enjoying myself in that way. Based on one of my experiences with one of my band members, I've written a poem, and the title of the poem is Missing Joe Davis. Joe was black and played bass in our band that was all out of whack till he lent us a hand on the upright. First night I saw him doing his thing, Barney answered the door in the early morn and allowed me upstairs, where I was hearing them sing old jazz tunes to the lead of a horn, a sax. I sat all alone, the sole white in the place, as Joe laid a bass line that grounded it all, but all understood from the look on my face. I was in a new zone and having a ball with new friends. The sweat dripped from Joe on his bass and the stand, but he played right on till morn's first glow. 'Twas the bestest in the land. One hell of a show for us all. He joined our group later. We needed a bass, not expecting the reaction we got about the shade of his face that made them get hot like rednecks. We played anyway, and there came a change when Joe zigzagged the floor with bass and umbrella on pennies from heaven. They gauged the full range of the black on bass fella. They threw pennies. His umbrella was upside down. I was the student and he was the teacher, not about music, chords, or whatever, but dealing with people, their hates, their fears. Joe's lessons will last me the rest of my years. Bless him. This is a story, a poem actually, that I wrote based upon my concern about the direction that nations are taking and wars. The title of the poem is A Warrior's Worry. The president came to visit last week. He's been with me before, and like millions of others who stop by, he doesn't even know my name. They pay homage without knowledge of me, the man, a devoted husband, once skin and bones. They prefer now not to know. It's easier that way. No longer a man of ambition, appetites, and loves, I'm a symbol instead to be honored and cherished. As the son of all mothers and fathers, the golden ones, whose sons' blood was shed freely from our nation's veins. The clicking of shined heels and cleats is unending. The vigil's the same overhead, no matter the weather. Pride and grief remain my uniformed companions, day by day, year after year, here in the quiet of Virginia. My own worry is not for myself or for the role that I dutifully fulfill, but for the future immediate, the new children soon to follow us, millions already gone. I long eventually to symbolize peace and quiet among nations. I'd prefer standing for life and not honored death. But soon it won't be. This will not pass, I can see. And I will forever and full of hope remain the unknown soldier. This is a poem that I wrote about a prosecutor that I met in Chicago, and I think you'll enjoy what he had to say. It's titled Name Dropping. Criminal defendants often have the damnedest strange names. Several that come to mind now are Amir Fassad and, of course, a mean guy. During the course of a seminar in Chicago, however, the presenter was claiming to have encountered the most outrageous name of all. I seriously doubted his claim, holding Amir and Amin up my own sleeve. The presenter, also a prosecutor, told us that he had a trial scheduled in the city and urgently needed one of his witnesses to appear. The name of the witness was Zippity Doodah Day. That, of course, brought some laughter from the seminar audience. The speaker went on to say that he called the witnesses home, and a woman answered the phone. It was his mother. The prosecutor then asked the mother if Zippity Doodah Day was available to discuss the case. In reply, the mother asked, "Would that be senior or junior?" I knew I couldn't top that. And the final story is based upon my retirement from the Attorney General's office in Delaware. On close to my last day, several friends came in and asked me if I wouldn't partake in a scenario that they had schemed. And I did. And this is the story in all of their words and mine. I was in my office early one Friday morning when Andrew Vella and Martin O'Connor walked in together. Both were good friends and damn fine prosecutors. However, the looks on their faces clearly indicated to me that this would not be a legal conversation. We had a brand new Attorney General whose name was Carl Danberg, and he would soon be introduced to the criminal division at our regular 8:30 a.m. Friday meeting. Approximately 40 prosecutors, Steve Wood, the chief prosecutor for Newcastle County, and new AG would be in attendance. I listened carefully to Vella and O'Connor in my office, and a plan was put in place. When I entered the meeting room, there were many young deputies seated around the conference table that dominated the space. I took one of the seats against the wall that surrounded the table, and I chatted with a few friends. O'Connor and Vella sat together in chairs against the opposite wall as Steve Wood opened the meeting, introducing the new Attorney General. Wood and the Attorney General, of course, sat at the end of the long conference table. As the half-hour meeting was winding down, O'Connor asked to be recognized. The big Irishman looked over in my direction and began. "Rammy, my nickname, you're soon to be retired. There are many young deputies in this room that could profit by your experience and advice. However, they're not going to have that opportunity now because of your retirement. It seems to me that this might be the perfect time to give some of that good advice." With that, Vella, the guy from Queens, New York, interrupted. "Yeah, Rammy, I agree with Martin, and I'm seconding his motion. Could you maybe sum it all up with the best legal advice possible for the newer people in this room, drawing on your many years of experience in the office?" By now, Steve Wood, familiar with the O'Connor-Vella show, was warily eyeing them. Nevertheless, I stood to answer. "Well, yes, thank you," I said. "I'll do that. I've tried about 40 murder cases. There are many, many other assaults, rapes, and burglaries that I've prosecuted over the past 20 years as well. I headed up the Dover office for the Attorney General, Charlie Oberle, from 1987 to 1995, and I oversaw all of the work that was done there by other deputies as well. And based on all of that experience, I do have one piece of legal advice that I certainly hope sticks with all of you young people who will be here long after I'm retired. It's this: if you're in a bad marriage, get the hell out." I remained standing to gauge the reaction. The room erupted in laughter. Wood shook his head from side to side, understanding that he'd been duped. Carl Danberg, the new Attorney General, smiled in amusement, no doubt wondering why he had agreed to accept his new job. After all, it was a great way, nevertheless, to end a meeting. And there's a footnote to this story. About a year later, I was in Wilmington, and I was approached by a young female Deputy Attorney General. She smiled broadly and told me how much she had appreciated my legal advice. Her divorce papers had been filed. Thank you all so much for listening to my stories and my poem.